So a few times a year or so, I have to do a pretty significant pin rearrangement and reorganization because I always end up running out of pin board space. There's this problem that as time goes on, the amount of pins I have always increases, but there is a finite amount of pin board space at any time. Right now, I've reached the point where I am maxed out on a lot of my spaces, and I'm going to need to do a significant amount of rearranging. I've got myself a new little makeshift pin board. So this is actually going to be my new pin board. It is not actually a cork board. I tried to be super resourceful. This is actually a canvas that I had lying around. This was actually an extra from way back when I did my DIY Disney Walls wall art project. So all I did with this was some extra fabric I had lying around. This was something that I thought I might use when I make my ears, but ended up not needing it. So all I did is I just stapled it on to this canvas, and now I can use this as a pin board. The only thing is you will pretty much have to secure the pins on the back with a backer since it's not as robust as cork. But it's the perfect thing I needed for my situation, so I thought I'd bring you along as I try and rearrange my pins, because I do really like to rearrange my collections and kind of play with things and move them around because, as you probably know, I display all of my keeper pins. I don't like to have them tucked away in binders or books. Pins are things that I like to look at. So I'm going to give a little overview of my current pin board situation, and then we'll try and figure out what to do and how to rearrange them. So one of my big current problems is that this board that I have, my Emperor's New Groove and Wall-E pin collection, it is totally filled to max capacity, and I've gotten more Emperor's New Groove and Wall-E pins that I need a place for. So I think I'm going to have to make this board entirely Emperor's New Groove, and I'll have to move the Wall-E pins off and onto their own pin board. Up in this corner, I have some personal pins here where it says easy for my initials, some state pins, baseball, birthday, whatnot. But this is all in attraction pin board, so I think I'm going to move those to where I have some more kind of personal-ish pins so that they fit better. Up here, I have these 3 circular pin boards, and these are actually cork trivets from IKEA. As you can see, that little Moana is already maxed out, and I have more Moana pins to add. So I'll probably try and combine all of these together. And then I have some Disney Resort and Disneyland year pins on this little board, but I do have a lot more Disneyland pins that I've accumulated. So I might want to try and put that with a whole collection together. And then I have some hexagonal pin boards here, and this pin board is my miscellaneous, don't really have a collection that they fit into, but I kind of put them here. So I almost feel like I should move my Wall-E pins over here because these are some more focused whole solitary collections going down to Frozen there. And that maybe I can move these miscellaneous pins to my bigger cork board that I'm now putting together. And then these are all my new pins that I currently need to try and find a home for. So I haven't put these on any boards yet because I haven't had space for them. And today is the task where some of these have been sitting for quite a while. I really want to figure out where they're all going to go. I have some more pins in an Eda bag, but I don't know if I want to keep them in there. I put them in there because I didn't have pin board space, but maybe I'll add them to this selection here. Okay, so step 1 is going to be taking all of the Wall-E pins off of this cork board, so that is going to become entirely Emperor's New Groove pins. That space is cleared up, and now we can put on the new ENG pins that I have. These are my new additions for this pin board. This pin here is a super awesome fantasy pin. It's like the thickest pin I've ever seen. I was able to trade for this one. And then I have this really awesome box lunch pin set when Yzma and Kronk are dressed up in their lab gear. So these get to join the rest of the pins. Alright, so this is kind of exciting to have a full dedicated ENG pin board, and now I have significantly more room to grow with this collection. But now I'm left with all these Wall-E pins to rehome, and I think I'm going to put them on one of the hexagonal cork boards on the wall. But that cork board isn't easily removable from the wall, so that's going to make putting these up there a little less convenient. But that first means we have to take all those pins that are on that cork board off. And now we get to put up the Wall-E pins there. Okay, so now I'm realizing this may not have been the best plan because I have basically already filled up the board. I still have 2 little pins to go, and I still have the 2 other additional pins to add on. That also means there's no room for growth here. I might just have to take these all off and then reconsider my plans. But that is just part of how pin rearranging and reorganizing goes. So I will come back to this spot later, and maybe I could add like Moana and Lilo and Stitch and maybe Belle on there. Hopefully that will work. Okay, then looks like Wall-E's gonna get a spot on my new little board that I've made up here. So I think maybe I'll just try and keep it to the bottom of the board so that I can leave other stuff to the top. And then I have my new pins to add. This is another box lunch set, just a little Wall-E and Eve pin where they're wrapped up in Christmas lights. Alright, so now there will be room to add more Wall-E pins as I get them, and then I will figure out what I'll put on the top half of this board. So I know for sure Moana has to come down because I'm so out of room and I have more pins to add. And I think that would at least work well combined with Lilo and Stitch. I'll see if I can put it in the corner. And then maybe Belle can stay, but I kind of want to consolidate as much as I can. Alright, so I finally got the Moana pins situated up there, and now I have a few more new ones to add. I've got this cool pin from Box Lunch. And then I've got the final 3 Kakamora hidden Mickeys. Now there seems to be hopefully a perfect amount of space to fit the Lilo and Stitch pins on top. Okay, so technically that works, that's totally filled, but that means it's totally filled, so I won't have room for any new pins there. This will probably have to be temporary, but good enough for today's purpose. Alright, I pulled down my personal-ish pins that I had up there, and I'm gonna see if I can kind of combine them with these resort pins because these are also like personal pins. They're resorts that I've stayed at. And then also years that I've gone to Disneyland. I have preemptively gotten a 2019 one, as you can see. But I also do want to put like just Disneyland pins together, and so maybe I can move those with that. We shall work to figure it out. Alright, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. There is some more room to add personal pins. There also would be more room to add resorts on it, but obviously I'm not staying at any new Disney resorts anytime soon. So I think that this one works as a little pin board. Now I have to tackle quite a few Disneyland pins. I have some pins that I had on an eat-a-bag insert, but I really like to keep them on my walls until maybe I'd be using them. So I'm thinking I might put them on the top half of the pink board that has Wall-E on the bottom. Alright, so there actually is quite a bit of room to grow on this board, so that's awesome. I got the years I visited there, and I added in some kind of other flare pins. So I think this board is set for now. Alright, I gotta figure out homes for all of these pins, but all I have are these two small cork boards left. So I'll prioritize with the most collection-esque things, and then I'll kind of see what I can do with the total miscellaneous stuff left. Alright, so here I've put together a little pin trading meta pin board. Semi-recently I've acquired these really fun pins about pin trading. There's a whole bunch more in this kind of related set. And then these at the bottom. So if you've seen my video on most common fake Disney pins, you'll know that these are the past attractions and the resort Hidden Mickey's pins, which are basically the most heavily faked pins in existence. However, these are all beautiful and authentic, and when you get a real one, it is a world of difference. So if you're watching this far, my plan for Disneyland this summer is I want to trade for the worst looking fake version of as many of these pins as I possibly can, and based on how heavily faked they are, that should be pretty easy. And so I want to kind of create the ultimate funny little real versus fake display with these beautiful, actual, authentic Hidden Mickey pins and some of the horrible fakes. So here's my little pin trading pin board. Now the question is, how many pins can I fit on this pin board, and what pins will I be left over with that are going to be temporarily homeless? So this is my interesting pin board. I have some Goofy Movie pins up here. As you can see, I've been very Goofy Movie themed lately. I love the new gaming pin that came out with. Some Brave Little Toaster, High School Musical, Big Hero 6, and this is actually a pretty nifty Disney Movie Club Ralph Breaks the Internet pin. But that means I really need one more of these cork boards. So I do technically have one more of these boards, but I've been putting on there the pin trading pop-up books that they're releasing this year as technically a monthly series, but they haven't really been doing it monthly. They've been delayed and kind of releasing 2 in a month, so they have not actually released enough up to date because we should have had the April one. So I'm wondering if maybe I don't keep these on this board. Maybe I try and find somewhere else to put them, so that way I can get the rest of the ones together, because this will eventually end up being a whole 12 pin set and I'll want kind of some display for it. Alright, so then this is a very eclectic pin board. I have some Indiana Jones pins I couldn't really fit with the other movie pins, some princess pins, cat pins, and then this awesome Let's Craft pin from Hong Kong Disneyland. So this is interesting to say the least. Because I have so much room at the top of this Emperor's New Groove pin board, I think I'm going to temporarily have my pin trading pop-up books there, so that way I can have every single pin that I needed accounted for and on a wall space. Alright, I have finally finished rearranging, and organizing everything. So we started off with this pin board here. It's now all Emperor's New Groove and temporarily the Pin Trading Tales, the monthly series. I have this totally new pin board up here which is split between Wall-E and Disneyland. I don't really like to mix movies and like parks and attractions and resorts, so I'll probably change that over time. We have some little miscellaneous pin boards. That's now a personal pin board. Zootopia has been untouched. Moved a little bell down there. This board over here is now all Moana and Lilo and Stitch, and then I moved over my other movie miscellaneous board, but otherwise these guys all stayed the same. No change obviously to sweets and snacks. This board here, I just removed what was in the top corner, and then I have another board way up at top, and that has all stayed the same. Alright, so everything is nice in the sense that I have all of the pins that I needed homes for. They all are on their boards. I was able to add some extra space, but right now it feels a little bit incohesive, like it does feel patchworky, like I'll kind of run out of space and I'll get this little cork board and fit it in. So especially over here you can see it's just a whole bunch of like little cork boards that don't really go together super well. So I think it would be good to get some larger cork boards and then reduce the number of cork boards I have, since aesthetically I feel like it's just a little bit much. The pins are definitely taking over my whole wall here. I feel like soon it will just be like a wall of cork board and all pins, but I'm not quite to that level. But I'd love to know how you like to display your pins. Do you like to have them on cork boards on your walls, or are you somebody who likes to keep them nice and neatly organized in binders, or do you have some other way that you like to show them off? So I think that this was a good, nice first partial reorganization for me, but I feel like sometime in the future I'll have to do like a big overhaul and invest in some larger sized cork boards and not just try and like find whatever I have around here or like take the trivets and turn them into cork boards. But it's always fun to rearrange and play with your pins. I will say you don't want to do it like super frequently where you're always taking them on and off the cork boards, because especially if you have a really firm cork, that can damage the pin posts over time. But if you like to casually rearrange them, that's not really a problem. But thanks for watching!